tiki art actually came first. When we lived in San Francisco, there was I used to go to the Goodwill a lot, and I became very interested in tiki mugs because back then, this is in the very early '90s, there wasn't really the craze that there is now for a lot of the Hawaiiana and that sort of thing. And tiki mugs intrigued me because most of them were, they looked like a god. I thought, wow, a cocktail glass of this, Hawaiian god. That's cool. So I started buying them when I saw them, and you could get them for like $1 each, and and I ended up with a very small collection of them. And then I had friends who said, well, there's these bars that these mugs used to come from. They're still around, but hardly anyone goes to them. So we started going to the tiki bars in San Francisco. Going to the tiki bars, eventually I started making little necklaces to give to the bartenders as as a tip. Say, hey, here you go, and they loved it. So I thought, oh, this is kind of fun. And when we were going on our honeymoon, after we got married, and then we were going on our honeymoon, and we started thinking, outside of Hawaii, there's really nowhere to get tiki stuff. There's no tiki stores. And so we had this idea, okay, we're going to open a store. We're going to call it Tiki King, and it's going to sell just everything tiki mugs and tiki necklaces and just all tiki stuff. And we're like, that's it. It's going to be huge. This is going to make us $1 million. And then when we get that $1 million, we're going to open our own tiki bar, and it will be better than So we had this grand scheme of this business we were going to call Tiki King. And of course, after we got home and got back to jobs and such, it sort of was, well, I don't know how feasible it would be, but since I kind of come from an art background, I made a catalog of all this tiki stuff we were going to sell, and basically published it myself on a Xerox machine, down at Kinko's, and just gave a few out to friends. And it was kind of a joke, and they were like, "So how much of this stuff do you have made?" And I was like, "What do you want?" I want this keychain and this necklace. And so I'd go home and I'd make the stuff. And shortly after that, then I started getting mail, people saying, hey, can you send me a catalog? And then I started getting orders, and it was people I didn't know. And that was when we thought, okay, well, wait a minute, this could actually be a thing. My first painted ukulele was an old harmony that I found at a thrift store. It was beyond... It could not be restored back to its, to a collector's piece by any means. It was the top and bottom had come off. It had been strung with wire at some point, so a lot of it was actually destroyed. And so I bought it, took it home, stripped it down completely, and decided, okay, well, I'm gonna get nutty with it. So I ended up painting flames on the top, like airbrushed, flames there with the gradient from red to yellow, and then I carved a tiki into the headstock. And put rhinestones in the eyes, and in the fretboard to the fret position markers I put in rhinestones, and just had fun with it, And I thought, well, this could be, who else is painting on ukuleles this time? I didn't know of anyone, so I started just kind of fooling around with the I'd buy really cheap ones, like, these Chinese-made $9, unplayable, basically. And I'd carve into them and stain them and paint them and do all kinds of stuff. And, but one of the things I wanted was one that was playable, because I thought, well, I should have one that I can play. That's my art. And at the time, I had the leopard Fluke, and that was by far my favorite. And so I approached Flea Market Music and said, hey, I want to do a custom painted Fluke. What, is that possible? And they said no. Basically, through pestering them long enough, they finally said, I'll tell you what, we'll send you a top. You can paint it, we'll build it, as long as you're going to buy it. You pay for it up front, we'll build it and send it back to you. But we don't really want to get into this, as a business. And I said, okay. So they sent me the top, I painted it with this tiki design, and sent it back to them. And before I sent it, I took a picture of it, and then I photoshopped it onto a finished Fluke so it looked like it was built, and put it up on my website saying, this is my next ukulele. And I got an email like 2 weeks later from a collector saying, how much? So I said, I said, okay, well, I'll sell it to him. And I emailed Flea Market Music and said, someone actually wants to buy that, can you ship it to them and send me another soundboard? And they said, well, okay. This actually went on for a while until this one, which was number 29, which was the first one that I got to actually keep, because all the other ones were selling pretty much as fast as I could get them painted. But based on that, they went, well, hey, could you do something for us? And I said, well, sure. And they said, well, could you paint a pineapple? I said, yeah. So I painted up the pineapple top, which became one of their very early designer tops, which was the pineapple flea. And based on the success of that one, they said, well, could you do a tiki flea top? So I designed that for them, and they actually had it, they have their own printing process. So I just did the design, sent it off to them, and they started reproducing them. And then after that one, then they said, well, you know, the NAMM show's coming up, do you have any ideas? And so now every year around NAMM time, I come up with 3-4 ideas and send them off, and you know, we work back and forth, and it's neat. It's become this whole opportunity for me to combine art with the ukulele and be able to get it out there. I still hand paint the Fluke tops. All the other ones are the printing process that they do in-house. But if you see a Fluke that's got the tiki on it, I hand painted that one, and I still do. I don't actually know what I'm up to now. I should probably find out. I've got some at home that I'm working on right now. There's different layers of paint. So I'll get 3 or 4 and do the first layer on all of them, and then the next layer, and kind of go from there. Because that's one of the things that's interesting. Actually, I had someone come in and they said they wanted one done, but they said, I want to be able to see the grain like on this one. And I said, oh, this grain pattern. They said, yeah, so what kind of wood is that? And I said, well, I actually paint the grain. The grain pattern is painted on, so I can make it as grainy or as light or as, you know, however you want. But yeah, so I'm still hand painting these babies.